Hello, welcome to another beautiful Drogoz tutorial video. I'm sorry if it has taken way too long to send another tutorial video out. To be honest, I just kept forgetting to do it and I apologize deeply for that. Today's video is going to be somewhat quick and easy as we will be looking into each individual items for Drogoz. Before we get started, I want to say that while I am a pro Drogoz player, the item choices are what I think are good or bad choices for Drogoz. You may have a different opinion on these items, which is perfectly okay. This video is aimed towards newer Drogoz players that want to learn and get better with him. And learning about items is always a good start, so with that out of the way, let's begin. Illuminate is an item you should never really buy as Drogoz. Illuminate requires you to get on the ground and close with the enemy to even have them start being revealed by the item. And with Drogoz, your main purpose is to be extremely mobile and flying off the ground as much as possible. Alongside that, Drogoz's abilities can be used at the general direction of an invisible player and will still somehow kill him due to the massive explosion radius of his abilities. His spit, for example, does indeed have a massive explosive radius, so if you see Sky go invisible, guess where they might go? Spin in their general direction and go boom. You'll see a damage number pop up, which is all you really need to track and kill the player. It's even better with Combustible when the damage over time ticks from the talent actually reveals the enemy. Resilience is a situational item in which you only buy if you start having issues with crowd control. I never recommend first buying this item in general until you start getting affected by crowd control a bit in the match. At that point, you should definitely buy Resilience, as stuns, cripples, and more will hurt Drogoz pretty hard if you are noticing a lot of crowd control and it's actually affected you in the match. Haven is an absolute must buy on Drogoz. Like most champions, it's straight up damage reduction from all forms of attacks. Drogoz is a champion that is probably going to appear out in the open quite a few times and then is prone to attacks from a lot of different angles. Haven will help out negate some of that damage. A lot of times let Drogoz get out on low health or be perfectly fine. A very useful item that any and all champions should honestly get. Nimble, you will see me buy a lot of as a first buy item in pretty much almost every single match I play as Drogoz. Drogoz is an extremely mobile champion, and being able to stack Nimble 2 at the start of the match helps you move around on the ground and the air with a lot more ease. And yes, you heard me right. It all forms of movement speed, including nimble and lethality, does affect Drogoz's flight speed. Many people do not think this is the case, but it's extremely noticeable and it does work. If you do not want to pick Nimble as the first item, feel free to pick it later. It's still a generally good pick for Drogoz and I would highly recommend it. Master Writing is easily one of the most powerful items in the game. It's not a must buy, but you definitely want to pick this up if you notice yourself dying a lot in a match. While dying sucks, you can get back into the fight much faster on big and small maps with this item. Master Writing, however, is an absolute must-buy on Ice Mines, especially since Drogoz is one of the best champions to demount the enemy on that specific map. Kronos I actually consider an absolute must-buy on Drogoz, especially since he has a couple longer abilities. For example, Salvo has a 20-second cooldown, but with Kronos 3 it will drop to 14 seconds, which is a huge, absolutely massive 6-second cooldown difference. And he still gets a few seconds off his other abilities, which always play a huge part in keeping Drogoz alive and providing consistent damage to the enemy. Kronos does not need to be bought immediately, but I highly encourage picking it up at some point. It's even more potent if you decide to play the Salvo spam Drogoz build. Heal to Heal has went from one of the worst items to the game to honestly one of the best items. It's healing that is completely uncauterizable, so no matter what you will get that healing amount for each elimination. This is not a must buy for Drogoz, but I do recommend this item later in the match when you start to receive less heals due to cauterize. To go along with that, Drogoz is one of the hardest characters to heal for quite a bit of characters and players, mainly due to him being in the air and much harder to hit in general. So always keep an eye on your healing. If you notice you aren't really getting much healing, picking Kill to Heal will help you a lot. And remember to not be toxic to your supports if they are unable to heal you. It's the unfortunate downside of playing Drogoz, especially in casuals. Life Rip, going to be honest, I think Life Rip is now unnecessary for most champions since Kill the Heal's rework. The lifesteal is cauterizable and does not benefit for blaster champions who won't be able to consistently hit out shots like a lot of hit scan characters. Completely skip over Life Rip on Drogoz, forget it even exists as it's an item you should not buy on Drogoz, period. Rejuvenate is not an item for Drogoz. Drogoz is not a tank. You don't need Rejuvenate, especially for the same reasons I gave before on Kill the Heal. Drogoz is already hard to heal for a lot of characters and players, so you will not benefit from Rejuvenate at all. You only pick this item on tanks, and even then, on tanks you rarely do pick up Rejuvenate. Veteran is also a really good pick on Drogoz. It's not necessarily a must buy, but it's really good if you feel you need more health faster than if you would to buy Haven. Just remember to never pick Veteran if you're going against a character who has abilities or talents that does more damage based off how much health you have. Bulldozer, don't even look at it. Don't even look at Bulldozer. You don't need it, it doesn't exist. It's not there, ignore it. Really, Bulldozer should never be put on Drogoz or any champion in general. So many deployables in the game already can be killed in just a few shots, with the exception of Luna, which you don't need Bulldozer for. I do not recommend ever picking this item for any champion, just simply ignore its existence. Deft Hands, honestly, I would say Drogoz is one of the few characters who actually heavily benefit from Deft Hands, if it's bought later on. You only really buy it when you're playing Fustelon and don't have Hot Swap in your loadout, which a lot of Drogoz players don't have. It feels really good, and if you have the room, it's extremely fun to have to pick up. Lethality got a huge buff, and funny enough, it does heavily buff Drogoz if it's picked. It stacks with Nimble, and with Drogoz being an extremely mobile champion, having this will help you a lot in the match. Even the jump boost would help you get in the air faster from the ground. Remember that this item is not permanent and only applies to eliminations, so if you are a new Drogoz player and have a hard time getting eliminations off, then I would recommend skipping this item until you get better at the character. Wrecker is an item that I would say I have the most controversial-ish opinion about. A lot of people buy Wrecker, but I don't think Wrecker is not really meant for Drogoz or blaster characters in general. Almost all of the shields in the game will not stop Drogoz from damaging the frontline character itself. Drogoz can literally just fly over the shield. That's it, just literally fly over it. And if for some reason you're on the ground as Drogoz and can't fly above the shield, you can spit over the shield and do extra damage. Blanket Buzzable with that knockback will force the player away from the shield as well into your team, most likely putting them out of position and easier to kill. Don't pick up Wrecker on Drogoz unless you are fighting a Torvald. In that case, it's a perfectly good pick. Otherwise, save Wrecker for other champions like Victor, Tyrant, Vivian, and more. And that's all I have for the item guide on Drogoz. I hope this has helped you guys so much while you learn our beautiful boy Drogitos. If you have any questions, concerns, and more, feel free to comment and I'll try to answer them all. I ask that you share this video if you want, as it will help a lot more people see it and learn what items to pick on Drogoz. I want everyone to have the most fun they can on this character after all. And other than that, I hope everyone here has a fantastic day, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye.